The Secretary will read the first order of the day.
Debate on the President's State of the Nation address.
Honorable members, I have a copy of the President's address delivered at the joint sitting on the 17th of June 2014. The speech has been printed in the minutes of the joint sitting. I also have with me the list of the debate and the times allocated to the members. I would like to call on to our first speaker of the day, the Honorable Minister in the Presidency.
Madam Chairperson of the NCOP, His Excellency President Jacob Zuma, Honorable Deputy President Ramaphosa, honorable members, distinguished guests. We have now entered the second phase of our democratic transition. Our focus during this phase will be on placing our economy on a qualitatively different path that eliminates poverty and substantially reduces unemployment, creates sustainable livelihoods, and reduces inequality. This is the basis of our program of radical socio-economic transformation that the President spoke about last night. The 20-year review comprehensively identified the substantial progress that has been made since 1994, as well as its challenges that still need to be overcome. It showed unequivocally that South Africa is a much better place in which to live than it was in 1994. However, despite the strides made, the challenges still facing our country are immense. Our economy is still too reliant on exporting mineral resources, is still over-concentrated in a relatively few large companies, and is still largely owned and controlled by a racial minority. As indicated by the President, the National Development Plan provides the blueprint for what we need to do to address these challenges and to achieve our socio-economic objectives. We have to address these challenges in a context in which the global economic recovery from the 2008 financial crisis is still tentative and subject to a number of risks, including geopolitical risk, deflation in developed economies, economic performance and ongoing weakness in the banking sector of the Eurozone, and the effects of tapering and quantitative easing in the US. Developing economies are starting to recover, but growth in emerging markets, while relatively better, has slowed. These global conditions present both risks and opportunities for South Africa. The slowing of the Chinese economy in particular poses risk for commodity prices and South Africa's commodity exports. On the other hand, the recovery of developed markets and the growth momentum of the African continent present opportunities for growth in agriculture, manufacturing, and services sectors of our economy. South Africa's relatively low economic growth rate since 2008, coupled with weak export performance, has weakened fiscal balances and resulted in a growing current account imbalance. By 2013, approximately 700 billion rand of foreign savings were required to fund our current account deficit. This dependence on foreign savings exposes our economy to significant financial sector risk and also increases our exposure to external shocks. The 2014 first quarter GDP data from States SA indicates that our economy contracted in annualized terms by minus 0.6% over the previous quarter, partly as a result of the protracted strike in the platinum mining sector. Inflation is also rising, raising the prospect of a tightening of monetary policy with potentially negative consequences for economic recovery, and the recent rating downgrades will probably raise our cost of borrowing. It is therefore in this context that the President announced important measures yesterday to turn this situation around, particularly in the mining sector. And these include a process led by the Deputy President to promote social dialogue around resolving our economic challenges, the implementation of the Framework Agreement for a Sustainable Mining Industry, which will now be led by our President, and the establishment of an interministerial committee on the revitalization of distressed mining communities, which the President has asked me to lead. Working together with mining companies and organized labor, we need to urgently address the intolerable situation where our mines, which produce so much wealth, are surrounded by human settlements characterized by squalor and poverty. As an urgent first step, government is working with the relevant municipalities to ensure the rule of law, peace and community stability, improved delivery of water and sanitation services, ensure regular removal of refuse, repair roads, and provide improved lighting in informal settlements in all those mining areas. In addition, a range of projects are currently being planned and implemented between government and the mining houses to provide more than 30,000 housing units in the mining towns. For an example, 11 low-cost housing projects are currently planned or underway in the Bujanala Platinum Complex in Northwest to provide more than 10,000 units in the Rustenburg local municipality, Matibeng local municipality, and Moses Kotane local municipality. Our government is also engaging with the mining houses to ensure broader transformation of the mining sector in line with the commitments identified in the Mining Charter. And as part of this process, a comprehensive study aimed at transforming the migrant labor system is underway. Members, the President also highlighted that ongoing workplace conflict, such as we have experienced in the mining sector, is impacting negatively on our ability to grow the economy. Workplace conflict and poor industrial relations result from inadequate progress in transforming the apartheid workplace, wage inequality, a lack of pay progression and career pathing for ordinary workers, pressures on incomes of workers due to apartheid settlement patterns, poor communication between management and workers, and discrimination based on race. Our government will continue to support change in order to address these root causes of workplace conflict, as well as to bolster respect for labor law procedures and to eliminate violence during strike action. In addition to addressing workplace conflict, the President identified other key measures that we'll be focusing on over the next 5 years to jumpstart and radically transform the economy in line with the National Development Plan. We will be addressing the shortage of electricity through the rapid development of a mix of energy sources without excessive tariff hikes that would harm economic growth and the poor, and in a financially sustainable manner. In order to supplement ESCOM's new electricity generation projects, we will be exploring the potential for baseload independent power producers' contributions, building on the very successful independent power producer program for renewable energy. The President also highlighted that we will be engaging with business to build investor confidence and to identify as well as remove obstacles to investment. Our government will streamline and improve efficiency of regulatory processes in areas such as building licenses, environmental impact assessments, company registration, tax compliance, work permits for scarce skills, mining licenses, water licenses, and access to municipal infrastructure services. We'll also continue to invest in economic, social, and information and communications infrastructure as spelled out in the National Infrastructure Plan. Infrastructure projects will be used to crowd in productive investment through local procurement and by providing affordable quality services to investors. They'll also provide employment and other opportunities for women, youth, and promote Black economic empowerment. We will diversify the economy to promote innovation, growth, and employment from new opportunities such as the green economy, exports of goods and services to growing African markets, and shale and offshore oil and gas. Through the industrialization program, local procurement and other measures, we will develop and promote job-creating sectors of the economy such as mining, manufacturing, agriculture, and tourism. We'll support also the smallholder farmers through developing cooperatives in marketing and supply services to enable small-scale producers to enter formal value chains and take advantage of economies of scale. We'll also increase support for exploration, development, and production in mining and address obstacles to the use of our minerals in manufacturing, including incentivizing beneficiation through mining licenses. As we know, we are a very youthful society where the majority of the unemployed are the young people, and we focus in increasing their educational, training, and work opportunities for them through ongoing improvements to the education and training system and through internships and employment tax incentives, as well as through encouraging them and supporting our young people to start businesses themselves and become job creators. Members, one of the features of our radical economic transformation program is the creation of a new ministry for small business development. Small business must become the major contributor to job creation, and the small business sector will play a key role in reducing concentration in the economy and breaking the stranglehold of monopolies. We'll also promote greater competition in the economy through strengthening the Competitions Act to prevent monopoly pricing on intermediate inputs such as steel and heavy chemicals and wage goods in order to make local manufacturing more competitive and to support infrastructure investment. The competition authorities will also be further developed to act against cartels and ensure public interest is adequately protected in measures and acquisitions. One of the focus areas of our engagement with business will be improving the implementation of the Black Economic Empowerment Act and the Employment Equity Act in order to transform the ownership, management, and control of the economy. Our emphasis will be on creating Black industrialists in productive sectors of the economy and developing a Black patriotic bourgeoisie. We will be redirecting development finance institutions to provide increased access. Why should only be white bourgeoisie? All of these measures are aimed at supporting an increase in our inclusive economic growth rate to over 5% by 2019, which will in turn generating the resources to fund expanded access to services and improve the quality of life for our people on a sustainable basis. While government will continue with its current counter-cyclical stance within a sustainable fiscal framework over the next 5 years, our current relatively low growth rate constrains our tax revenues and limits our borrowing capacity. Because resources are scarce, we must identify the top priorities to enable acceleration of a better life for all, focusing on the main challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality, and ensure that our plans are aligned to these priorities. As emphasized in the National Development Plan, we must also make better use of our limited resources by improving the effectiveness, efficiency, and quality of implementation of our programs. In this regard, the Department of Performance Monitoring and Evaluation in the Presidency and the National Treasury are jointly carrying out expenditure reviews in order to identify inefficiencies and poorly performing programs so that resources can be redirected to priorities. The Presidency is also working together with departments to carry out evaluations of major government programs with the aim of improving their efficiency and impact. Capacity is also being created in the presidency to carry out thorough socio-economic impact assessments of both new and existing legislation and regulations in order to ensure that they are aligned to the National Development Plan and reduce the risk of unintended consequences. The National Development Plan stresses that building the capacity of the state is a prerequisite for successful implementation of government policies. Over the next 5 years, we will therefore be implementing measures to strengthen coordination, accountability, and performance management in government. We'll improve recruitment and skills development, strengthen procurement and supply chain management. Honorable members, over the next 5 years, we will be focusing on forging a disciplined, people-centered, and professional public service, empowering citizens to play a greater role in development and building an ethical public service. In order to ensure that we create stability in top management in the political administrative interface, an administrative head of the public service will be put in place in the presidency. We'll also introduce enhanced focus on implementation level planning, problem solving, and continuous improvement. For an example, we're working with the Malaysian government to implement its Big Fast Results methodology, which involves bringing key stakeholders together in a laboratory for intensive planning at a practical and detailed level, setting targets which are made public, rigorous monitoring of progress with implementation, making the results public. Using this methodology, the government of Malaysia was able to register very impressive results within a short period of time. We'll be started with 2 pilot projects, one in the economic sector led by the Minister of Environmental Affairs and one in health led by the Minister of Health. The economic sector laboratory will focus on the ocean economy. Our analysis indicates that there is a massive untapped economic potential related to our oceans in the areas of marine transport, manufacturing, offshore oil and gas exploration, aquaculture, and marine protection services and governance. It is estimated that unlocking the economic potential of our oceans can contribute to up to 177 billion rand to our GDP by 2033 compared to a mere 54 billion rand in 2010. This sector also has the potential to employ 1 million people by 2030 compared to 316,000 in 2010. The health sector laboratory will focus on bringing about sustained improvements in the quality of care provided in primary care clinics. This is one of the many reforms that is being implemented as part of the National Health Insurance Initiative. Members, national departments responsible for concurrent functions will be required to play a stronger monitoring and supportive role with regard to the quality of services provided at municipal level. As indicated by the President, national and provincial departments responsible for local government will improve their monitoring and support roles at municipal levels. Government has been implementing the National Development Plan since its adoption in September 2012. The annual performance plans of national departments for the year 2014-2015 financial year, which were submitted to this House recently, reflect an alignment to the National Development Plan. The Presidency has been working with national departments and provincial and local spheres of government to develop a medium-term strategic framework for 2014-2019 as the first detailed 5-year implementation plan for the National Development Plan. To emphasize how serious government is about implementing the NDP and to ensure that the work of all departments is aligned to the National Development Plan, Treasury regulations have been amended to require departments to submit their draft strategic plans and annual performance plans to the Presidency. We will be checking the department's plans to ensure that they reflect the relevant responsibilities and targets for implementing the National Development Plan as set out in the medium-term strategic framework. This MTSF was approved in principle by the recent Cabinet Lekgotla and is being refined to be released in a few weeks' time. As honorable members are aware, departments are required to submit their plans and performance plans to Parliament and to account to Parliament regarding their performance. We would like to commit the Presidency to collaborating with Parliament in this regard by sharing our planning, monitoring, and evaluation information. In conclusion, honorable members, the National Development Plan is not just a plan of government, but a plan for the whole country. It is a people's plan which has been adopted by the majority of our people and stakeholders. We are therefore calling on all South Africans to rally behind the implementation of this plan, including labor, business, and all organs of civil society. I thank you.
We thank you, Minister. Our next speaker is the Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Maimane.
Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, it is indeed my sincere honor to address this House today. I would like to greet the President and wish you all the best in the next while and say it's good to have you back in good health, sir. I also want to extend our greetings to our Honorable Deputy President, Premiers, Ministers and their deputies, leaders of other political parties, honorable members of this House, and those who honor us with their presence in their gallery, honorable members, fellow South Africans, Bagaetso, Dumela. See, I'm a son of Soweto. I've grown up to see both the good and indeed the bad of South Africa. I'm a child of migrant laborers who moved to Gauteng to find work in those dark days of apartheid. I am a beneficiary of the freedoms that former President Nelson Mandela fought for and the product of a decent education. I am a father to 2 little children, and in fact it is them and all the children like them that we stand up and fight for the future that we have, and we do the work that we do here in this House. I'm a proud South African who loves this country deeply. And in fact, I believe that what we do here over the course of the next 5 years, more so than any previous parliament, will define whether we can build a prosperous, inclusive future for South Africa, or in fact not. That is the responsibility and the task of this 5th parliament. Madam Speaker, honorable members, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, South Africa is a nation anchored in a history of violent and fervent racial oppression. Our people bear scars of a history of 342 years in which one person's freedom came at the cost of another. In dark days, our land cried out for a different future. A nation cried out for hope. We have a unique opportunity to craft a future of hope together. But to do this, we need leaders with the courage to deliver bold, new ideas. I'm indeed sad to say that the President's address yesterday evening was an opportunity missed. It was a speech of a leader out of touch with the plight of the people he has the privilege to serve. Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, abantu bethu bayasokola, abantu bethu abanamsebenzi. 1/3 of our people can't find work. The youth of South Africa are the worst affected by unemployment, with nearly 4 in 10 young South Africans without a job. And yet, last night, the extent of unemployment and the crisis thereof was not mentioned in the President's address. How can indeed we say that we're a nation at work where millions of people, in fact, are out of work? South Africa has again been downgraded by reputable rating agencies. Our economy is shrinking and more people are losing their jobs because our government is held captive by competing interests and factional wars at the heart of his party. We've heard speeches like this from President Jacob Zuma before, but his words have seldom been matched by the actions of his administration. The truth is that he cannot implement the very blueprint for South Africa's development, which is the National Development Plan. Fellow South Africans, I believe we have the potential. Our economy should be creating jobs and creating wealth for all South Africans. But in fact, it is faltering at policy uncertainty. I am afraid that the President last night did not provide any clarity in this matter. While this government pays lip service to the National Development Plan, it brings laws to this parliament that kills jobs. The government speaks of job creation and investor confidence, but at the same time enacts legislation that expropriates private businesses, allows corruption to thrive, and kills small businesses. You see, if the NDP is to succeed, President Zuma must match last night's speech with a real commitment to stop job-killing legislation. And therefore, I challenge him from this House to withdraw the Mineral and Petroleum Resources Development Amendment Bill, the Promotion and Protection of an Investment Bill, which in fact does nothing of the sort, the Property Valuation Bill, the Expropriation Bill, and the Infrastructure Development Bill. All of these bills contradict the National Development Plan, and they undermine economic and job creation. Fellow South Africans, Chairperson of the National Council of Province, the people of South Africa are calling out for leadership at a time such as this one with economic difficulty. It is an undisputable fact that where the DA governs, more jobs are created than anywhere else in South Africa. Since the end of 2012, South Africa's unemployment population has grown by 121,000, whilst in fact in the Western Cape, the unemployment population has shrunk by 48,000 South Africans. This is because we are creating an environment where businesses can thrive and create jobs. We cut red tape so that people can participate quicker and less expensively. We create jobs for young people through apprenticeships and internship programs. We invest in infrastructure and spend budgets that we set for ourselves. We get clean audits. We give loan funding to black-owned businesses. And we do this while spending 76% of capital budgets in poor communities. And ultimately, we cut corruption. In fact, the President announced last night that we would stop government officials from doing business with the government. This is good news. But we passed this law 5 years ago in the Western Cape. Why has it taken so long for it to become a national law? Madam Speaker, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, there is indeed a lot we can do to fire up this economy and create jobs. Let's make black economic empowerment work so that it can create jobs, so that it empowers the man and the woman on the streets. Let's make BEE incentivize small businesses and help entrepreneurs get their first opportunity in the economy. Let's make it truly transform the economy by including millions of new people, not only a few connected few. South Africa's future is indeed where all of us and more of us find work. Let's lease out government buildings that we don't use to small businesses at preferential rates. Let's give discounts on training. Let's start a national venture capital fund that will allow for bold new business ideas. See, we agree with the President that South Africa requires radical transformation. And by this, we mean bold ideas that grow the economy and create jobs. You see, honorable members, radical plans are not in and of themselves good simply because they're described as radical. It's the same as just like wearing a beret does not make you a revolutionary. In fact,
please continue.
With absolutely no details on these proposed radical transformative plans being given yesterday, we must without fail call them empty promises. Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces,
please continue, Honorable Maimane.
I will do so. I truly believe that indeed the DA is the only party with radical transformative economic plan. Our plans will see a revolution of small businesses where entrepreneurs thrive and they themselves will become employers. It is indeed puzzling that the Honorable President has just created a new ministry for small businesses, yet gave absolutely no details on how small businesses can look forward to government support. The fact, in fact, is that we need to find new ideas, we need to foster a new way, and Honorable President, we cannot give up on bringing about new ideas to developing this economy. Madam Speaker, we have to break down barriers of entry for small businesses today. Not in 5 years, not after the Department of Small Businesses has spent billions on consultants, subcommittees. It must be now. In fact, it's not the role of the state to create jobs. It is, in fact, the role of the state to help businesses create jobs. Most crucially, businesses must have a constant supply of electricity. It is a national scandal that is not guaranteed to anyone in South Africa. And it is clearly on record that the government was definitely informed of this crisis before it became this critical. What South Africa desperately sought was leadership on how to deal with load shedding tomorrow morning and the morning thereafter. Today, Kosoweto, people are protesting because they've spent the last 3 days without electricity. Yet, in yesterday's address, we saw no plan on how to immediately tackle the electricity supply problem. While businesses fail and jobs are lost because of an unstable electricity supply, I really believe that the Honorable President ignores what Martin Luther King referred to as the fierce urgency of the now. While we see the very long-term projects being proposed, there sought to be no immediate plan. This economy will only further decline without immediate electricity supply being consistent. This failure is amongst the most serious of this administration. The President talked about reintroducing the Independent System and Market Operator Bill, which is a complete flip-flop on his government's previous position. This bill will make electricity supply transparent and accountable. We've pushed for this bill for so many years. The DA has supported it, and we now welcome the Honorable President following suit. As people turn to starting their own small businesses, they need to be emerging from a system of quality education. Indeed, in yesterday's address, the people of South Africa waited for the Honorable President to address the significant government failures in education. How does the department, with the biggest budget from our national fiscus, and the biggest budget in Africa deliver the worst maths and science education on the entire continent. Only 3% of grade 9 learners passed the numeracy test in the 2013 annual national assessment. Of the 1.2 million learners who registered for grade 1 in 2002, more than half of these learners have dropped out of the school system before they get to grade 12. Only 34% of learners who started school passed matric in 2013. These statistics, honorable members, must shame every single one of us. And yet, they were completely ignored in yesterday's address. It is a consequence of this government's refusal to impose mandatory standards on teachers and its refusal to take action when results started to dip. The president said very little, 2 lines in fact, about violent crime that keeps our communities living in fear. He made only passing reference to corruption, which cost the people of this country 30 billion rands a year. This money should have been spent on schools, clinics, housing, policing, and health provision. National Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the President said nothing about corruption in this government, which I believe really begins right at the top. South Africa is very well versed in scandal after scandal that must be attributed to this administration. The public protector has spoken. I now request that President follow suit and speak. The people of this nation have absolutely no explanation from their president on the damning allegations against the property built in Nkandla. Until the Honorable President fully explains himself on the undue benefit from state funds to his personal property amounting to millions of rands, South Africans cannot trust the words spoken from him. For this reason, honorable members, we must see the re-establishment of the Nkandla Ad Hoc Committee in this 5th Parliament. The President did talk a lot about local government, and what he did not mention was that 4 out of the 11 municipalities he listed last night are DA governed, and that the consistently best performing municipalities in the country were not even on his list. For the NDP to succeed, it is our view that we need to send our best to local government in order to deliver what the dreams and the ambitions of our people. Last night, the President spoke about cleaning up. His speech was an ideal opportunity for him to come clean about South Africa, come clean about our economic crisis, come clean on job creation, come clean on the electricity crisis, come clean on the failing education system, come clean on the public protector's report, come clean on the National Director of Public Prosecutions, but he did not. Instead, he offers out future plans and the promise to hold his cabinet ministers to performance contract. Well, Chairperson of the National Council of Province, this notion is welcome. But where are these terms of agreements? Who will judge their performances? How will people ensure that these are properly upheld? And what about the performance agreements signed 5 years ago? Honorable members, Mr. President, I stand before this House and before South Africa today. I am forever mindful of the reality of millions of South Africans who struggle every single day. I am mindful of and moved by the fear and the distress that unemployment casts upon millions of my fellow South Africans. Mr. President, I'm compelled to speak on behalf of these people. Forgotten, indeed, at your State of the Nation. I'm in fact compelled to speak out on behalf of the unemployed who deserve a better lot in this life more than this government has delivered. I am compelled to speak out for those who lose their jobs as this economy further contracts. Mr. President, honorable members, for the sake of South Africa, for the sake of our people, for the sake of the future of this beautiful land, let us live to the title, Mr. President, let us live up to the title of Honorable President. Mr. President, we cannot in fact afford 5 more years of more of the same. Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, my call to the President is made up with the hopes of South Africans in mind. Let us write a new chapter in the story of South Africa with fresh ideas. Let us indeed be bold. Let us contest for these ideas. Let us contest for change. Let us contest for jobs. Morena, boloka setjhaba sa heso. Nkosi sikelele Africa. God bless Africa. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Order. The Honorable J.S. Malema.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and the President of the Republic of South Africa, and honorable members of this Parliament. Thank you for affording us an opportunity to respond to the State of the Nation delivered by our President. We want to acknowledge and greet millions of South African workers, the poor, downtrodden and dejected masses of our people, particularly 1 million plus South Africans who voted for EFF to come to this Parliament and represent the agenda of economic freedom in our lifetime, without any fear of contradiction. Our people mandated this movement, the EFF, to come and speak on behalf of the homeless, the landless, domestic workers, security guards, farm workers, cleaners, waiters and waitresses, recipients of social grants, construction workers, the unemployed and poverty-stricken masses of our people who are forgotten by the ruling elite, which is in bed with the oppressors and the imperialist forces. I thought it was going to be difficult for me to carry this mandate with a serious commitment against the party which taught me everything I know today about politics. But this was made easy by seeing Mr. Martinus van Schalkwyk on the benches of the ruling party. I then quickly remembered that, by the way, we are not opposing the ANC we joined then, the ANC of Lawrence Pukanuke, but we are opposing the ANC of Martinus van Schalkwyk and Cyril Ramaphosa. Mr. President, when you spoke yesterday, you reaffirmed this belief that indeed we have chosen the correct path because you no longer represent the hope of the hopeless masses of our people. Your speech yesterday was uninspiring and lacked the central theme, Mr. President. No one will remember what you said last night except that we should clean on Mandela Day, which was the only emphasis you made, and maybe because you thought it was the simplest subject you had to deal with in the whole speech last night. What was supposed to be the simplest subject for you has proven to be more complex than you thought, Mr. President, because your cleaning instruction goes against the wishes of President Mandela, who said it must be left to individuals' choice on how they wish to remember him or celebrate his life. I'm sorry, Mr. President, I won't be cleaning on Mandela Day. I will be involved in a more productive activities which will leave long-lasting legacy and remembrance of our world icon. And those activities will, amongst others, include the rebuilding of mud schools in the Eastern Capes and
a point of order, please.
On a point of order, Tate Malema, please.
Honorable Chairperson, the Speaker called the Deputy President of the Republic, Cyril Ramaphosa, and I think he's honorable as the member of this House. Can you rule on that? Thank you.
Honorable Malema, the Honorable Deputy President of this House is an honorable member of this House.
No problem, Honorable Cyril Ramaphosa. Mr. President, you tried to speak about radical socio-economic changes in your speech last night, but nothing you said was radical. Instead, we had a repetition of what has been said before. I know very well that your attempt to make radical economic changes Your central theme in your speech last night was a direct response to the existence of EFF or even an attempt to delegitimize it, but you successfully failed in the same way you failed when you introduced the red beret to counter that of the EFF during elections campaign. You and your party should stop playing with semantics, especially when it relates to a radical economic agenda, because you lack courage and you have sold out the revolution. You don't have what it takes to lead the struggle for economic emancipation of black majority, particularly Africans. You are extremely scared of white people, particularly white monopoly capital. You have in the past 20 years defended the privileges of white minority and continue with the exploitation and exclusion of oppressed black majority. The reason for such is because the elite pact that was forced upon the people in 1994 does not allow for radical economic transformation and changes. The pact defends the colonial and apartheid ownership patterns of the means of production, including property. The ANC is part of an elite pact that seeks to protect white monopoly capital and white minority privileges. And this has led to the formation of the EFF because there was a political vacuum and nature does not allow a vacuum. The EFF is here to lead the struggle to dismantle the elite pact and introduce the sunrise clauses. The pact has made you to even accept wrong things as the laws that run this parliament for the past 20 years. For example, the 1975 Act that makes it compulsory for members of parliament to join a certain medical aid scheme. You have been part of this illegal law and unconstitutional law for the past 20 years. It only took the EFF less than 100 days to reject this law, and parliament lawyers have agreed with us that indeed this law was unconstitutional, a law you complied with. This elite pact is reflected by the fact that the most prominent statue in this parliament is a statue of Louis Botha. The one of Nelson Mandela is a very small and is hidden behind the statue of Louis Botha. Louis Botha is not our hero and cannot be a hero of a democratic South Africa. He's a colonial warmonger who fought for the exclusion of black and indigenous people from running their own country and affairs. It's people like this who made white South Africans think that they are superior, and we continue celebrating them. We are equally perpetuating white supremacy. The statue of Botha outside this parliament must go down because it represents nothing of what a democratic South Africa stands for. The statue represents backwardness and apartheid, and therefore it belongs to the dustbin of history and to be replaced with a bigger statue of Siaparankwe Rolihlahla Nelson Mandela. We will never have a true friendship and peace if white minority still behaves like they are superior and we should remain inferior in our own country. All black people continue to learn the languages of white minorities as part of our attempt to reach out to them and create friendship, but with very little attempt from their side to at least learn one of our African languages, because they have a wrong mentality that we must suck up to them. These are some of the legacies people like Louis Botha have left us, and it must be crushed. We must not celebrate anything that perpetuates white supremacy. As part of nation building, maybe we need to take hard steps by not celebrating any white person who does not speak at least or know one of the African languages. If you have a white friend as a black person and he or she does not know your language or take initiative to learn your language or your culture, that person is no friend at all. We need to undermine the legacy of apartheid through celebration of our blackness and unashamedly advance political, social, and economic liberation of blacks in general and Africans in particular. We must do away with self-hatred and embrace who we are and what we stand for. The time for black majority to benefit from natural, mineral, and the beauty of their country is now and can never be postponed. This is where we start. Now, we should deal with politics of what you raised yesterday. You promised jobs before, and you have repeatedly failed to create jobs. In your first address to this House as President, you promised to create 500,000 jobs in 6 months, yet you failed and no one held you accountable. Our people are being called upon to celebrate 20 years of freedom, and we really do not know what they should celebrate because the past 20 years has been 20 years of suffering and the poorest of the poor.
Yes, sir.
Agbare Speaker, is die agbare lid bereid om 'n vraag te vra? Is 'n baie maklike vraag. Ek wil vir hom vra, why does he deliver his speech in a white man's language of English, not in his own mother tongue?
Honorable Malema, are you prepared to respond to the question?
I have no time for racist questions. Our people are called upon to celebrate 20 years of freedom. We really do not know what they should celebrate because the past 20 years has been 20 years of suffering of the poorest of the poor. It has been 20 years of joblessness and unemployment for majority of our people, in particular the youth. 35% of South Africans capable of working are unable, and majority of those who are employed are paid very low salaries. Mr. President, whatever you have said about jobs has been a false and inconsistent as the performance of your party for the past 20 years. However, you look at it, in 1995, unemployment was 15%, and now at this moment, it is at 25% or 36% with an expanded definition. 70% of this demographic are youth. This is your legacy. You have more than doubled unemployment. More than half of the working people earn 3,300 or less. A third of all workers are now employed through labor brokers. And we must also remind you that 2014 is a year in which you said you would have halved unemployment in 2009. You also promised to distribute 30% of the land in this very year. You promised to halve poverty by 2014. You promised to provide security of tenure to 400,000 households who live in informal settlement. You keep making the same promises and misleading this House, and honorable members clap hands. They encourage this mediocrity, lack of leadership, and misleading of the nation and the poor. You are a man of tradition, Mr. President, a tradition of empty promises. Now knowing you will not be there in 2030, please say nothing about 2030 because you will not be there. The President said a minimum wage shall be investigated. There is no need to investigate. This House must show leadership and courage. The workers have already shown the way. For 5 months now, workers in the Platinum Belt have been on the strike, which demonstrated their genuine determination. They are looking for 12,500, which the ANC government massacred 34 of them 2 years ago for it. In honor of those who died, let this House legislate 12,500. This will be a sign of showing remorse and regret for the Marikana massacre. We also demand the establishment of Parliamentary Commission on conditions and the salaries of mine workers, including the auditing of the financial books.
Chairperson, on a point of order here, the Speaker said the ANC government massacred people 2 years ago. Is it parliamentary? Is there any proof of that? Can you rule on that, Chairperson?
Mr. Malema.
I maintain that.
Mr. Malema.
The ANC government massacred the people in Marikana. Those police were representing the ANC government.
Mr. Malema.
I'm not going to draw.
Morena.
It's not going to happen that.
Honorable Malema. Honorable Malema.
I'm all yours, Chair.
Honorable Malema.
Honorable Chair.
Please accept that this House and all our houses of Parliament have simple rules to follow in a debate. The last time we said hold your horses because we're taking a point of order.
Okay.
I was asked to rule. and even before I gave you the go-ahead, you were on. Please do not do it again. The honorable member of the ANC raised a point. You contest that point, you say that you are sustaining it. I wish to take this point on advice, honorable members, and will rule on it tomorrow. Because it is not an open and shut, a statement that you make and you conclude on. There are many implications on it, and I would like to be properly advised to come back to this House on a ruling tomorrow. You may continue, Ntate Malema.
We call him for parliamentary commission on the conditions and salaries of mine workers, including the auditing of the financial books of all the mines by the state, to ascertain ourselves on how much is the mining sector making in this country, because we do not trust the current financial disclosure by the mining sector. Mr. President, you have spoken about radical socio-economic changes. And if indeed you meant what you said, then you will agree with me that there is nothing radical about preserving the current exploitative economic structure. Otherwise, what has been suggested here is a mere old wine in a new bottle. We are back to gear by another name, which Blade in Zimande called 1996 class project and the most serious strategic threat to the national democratic
Order, members. Order, members.
In his
Honorable Malema, there is an honorable Blade in Zimande in this house.
Honorable Blade in Zimande, in his factional battles with President Thabo Mbeki,
Honorable Malema,
said
Honorable Malema, I will not have this house degenerating into this. Please debate the state of the nation, the factional battles and whatever. Let them stay where they are.
No, Chair. I don't agree with that. No, I don't agree with that.
Honorable Malema.
You are not going to tell me, Chair, how I must debate.
Order, Chair.
Point of order, Chair. You are not going to tell me how I must debate.
On point of order, Chair.
No, I can't be told what to say.
Honorable Malema. Order, members.
Point of order,
members,
Chair. Order, Chair. Point of order, Chair.
Honorable members, I am quite fit to sit on this chair. Honorable Malema, we have taken you through the rules of these houses. You will desist from making disparaging remarks on the persons of the honorable members of this house.
Point of order, Chair.
Order, Chair.
Point of order, Chair. The chairperson is out of order. Honorable Musima Iman referred to the factional battles in the ANC, for which the chairperson did not call him to point of order. So the chairperson must be consistent in the application of the rules of parliament.
This chairperson is very consistent. The Honorable Maimane referred to the factional battles in the party, did not apportion it to a particular member of this house. Honorable Malema, withdraw those remarks.
Honorable Chair.
On the factional tendencies or otherwise of the Honorable Blade in Zimande.
Okay, Honorable Chair, withdraw.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Mr. President, you clearly do not know what a radical economic transformation means. What is radical about EPWP? What is radical about buying stolen land? Maybe we must give you a few tips on what is radical economic transformation. You must be prepared, if you want to advance this agenda of radical transformation, to expropriate the stolen land without compensation. You must be prepared to nationalize the mines, the banks, and other strategic sectors of the economy. You must be prepared, Mr. President, to protect local industries and ensure that they continue to be productive. Mr. President, you must provide free quality education up until the tertiary level. Mr. President, you cannot celebrate the two glorified high schools which are wrongly called universities in the Northern Cape and Mpumalanga, because the two of them are going to take only 350 people. We need to engage, Mr. President, in a deliberate program to send 10,000 students to outside the country to the best of the best universities, because all the countries which have succeeded, they took their learners and their youth to learn outside their countries. Mr. President, you are on a paraffin speed building stadiums for the 2010 Soccer World Cup, but you are failing to build schools and you are failing to build basic things like toilets. Radical economic transformation means
Honorable
you must
Malema, I'm afraid your time is up. Thank you very much.
No, but those orders you are eating on my time.
Honorable Malema.
Chair. Mr. President, lao ka itima metsi o tla bona e nwele.
Order. The Honorable M.G. Buthelezi.
The Honorable
Order, members.
Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the Honorable Speaker, Your Excellency, our President, Your Excellency, Deputy President, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members. We appreciate the President's mention of the National Development Plan, for this remains the best wish list for any nation, in particular our nation. But beyond that, yesterday's opening of the Fifth Parliament read like a predictable script. We didn't expect to hear anything new from the President, different from what he said to us in February, and indeed he complied. That is not good for the country. There is no sign of change. Even the economic dire straits that see our country downgraded, the President continues with the empty promises of his party's manifesto. Our country's governance remains in the hands of a party that seems to have lost its way. I have warned repeatedly, Honorable Chairperson of Provinces, of the danger in promising people what cannot be delivered. Citizens may have renewed their mandate to the ruling party very clearly, but through service delivery protests across South Africa, they declare that the mandate is not being fulfilled. How much longer will they wait when nothing changes? Even as we met here yesterday, there were ructions in Tshwane. For 20 years, the IFP has been the voice of reason in our democratic parliament. Now, in a national, yes, we don't deny that. It's a fact. We can be clear about it.
Honorable Buthelezi, please
Now,
address the House and the Chair.
No, but I have a right, if you could.
Please, sir.
I have a parliamentary right to do that. Now, in a national discourse that is speeding towards division, volatility and racism, the IFP will remain the voice of reason. In spite of our electoral losses, the IFP retained its position in this House in the elections this year as the fourth largest party nationally. We're not obliterated, as the doomsday has predicted. We're not relegated to a provincial party. In every province of this country, the IFP found support among the people of goodwill. On behalf of this righteous remnant who believes in fighting for the right thing the right way, the IFP will work to restore integrity to our nation's leadership. Madam Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Your Excellency, our President, Your Excellency, our Deputy President, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members, there comes a time in history when the voice of the few begins to dominate, not because it's loudest, but because it speaks with words that are catalysts for the needed change. I know this, I'm among the few who have served in this parliament for its full 20 years. Among the opposition, I alone have responded to the State of the Nation address of 4 successive presidents. I've witnessed the triumphs and tragedies of our nation's democratic parliament. The first triumph, of course, was the formation of a government of national unity through the interim constitution, which secured seats in cabinet for any party receiving more than 10% of the vote. On the 27th of April 1994, more than 2 million South Africans voted for the IFP, and we joined President Nelson Mandela's cabinet to give our contribution to the full legislative reform of our country. For 5 years, we worked tirelessly against steady opposition from within cabinet itself, so that when President Thabo Mbeki opened the second parliament in June 1999, I expressed my hope that the ensuing stage of governance would be characterized by a willingness to accept good and valuable ideas, irrespective of who proposed them. With the opening of the second parliament, there was no longer a constitutional requirement for the ruling party to tolerate opposition parties in cabinet. Yet, President Mbeki invited me, Dr. Ben Gubane and Ms. Kosana, to serve as ministers. Initially, Mbeki offered me the deputy presidency of the country, but ANC leaders from KwaZulu-Natal, most notably our president, Honorable President, demanded that in return the IFP give the premiership of KwaZulu-Natal to the ANC. It was a ruse that scuppered discussions, for they knew we would never sell out the electorate. Voters had asked for an IFP premier, and it was not for us to give them the ANC. But we also understood that the IFP was compelled by the wounds of the past to embrace reconciliation through shared governance, as much as the ANC was compelled by the wounds of the past to seek reconciliation. We hope that as President Mbeki and I worked hand in hand at the highest levels of government, people on the ground who had been divided by a 20-year brutal, low-intensity civil war would begin to reconcile. Thus, for another 5 years, the IFP gave its contribution to the governance of our country. In KwaZulu-Natal, we set a standard of good and clean governance that has yet to be challenged or even equaled. Time and again, we steered our country's government back to reason and wisdom. Then tragedy struck. In the third parliament, the emerging leadership of the ANC spurned reconciliation and took the reins of governance in the white-knuckled grip of a party bent on domination, recognizing the chasm in integrity that was sure to open. The IFP became a moral opposition determined to protect democracy. South Africa was rapidly encumbered with a growing crisis in leadership and moral credibility. From the highest levels of government were denialism about crime, about HIV and AIDS, and finally about the global economic meltdown. History bears witness that my warnings were timely and true. The IFP has been the voice of reason in this House for 20 years. Unfortunately, history also bears witness to the revival of the ANC's program to destroy the IFP, which Mr. Mandela, as a matter of integrity, confessed to in 2002. He said, and I quote him verbatim, "We have used every ammunition to destroy Buthelezi, and we failed. He is still there. He's a formidable survivor. We cannot ignore him," unquote. Whereas President Mbeki and I had pursued peace, our president seems driven to divide. While the rest of the country remembers the 1976 student uprising, His Excellency President Zuma remembers Boy Patong. Why isolate Boy Patong? Why not the Shell House massacre, in which, again, because of his integrity, Mr. Mandela, standing where I'm standing, stated that it was he who ordered the security in Shell House to shoot to kill. Human life is the same in every tragedy, Mr. President, and your party's People's War generated a cycle of violence. Even in Boy Patong, it was not the IFP that told hostile dwellers to react in that brutal manner. They did, to the continuous violence perpetrated against them. We mourned the brutal loss of life in Boy Patong. It was a tragedy, as much as any of the tragedies of that time. Words, Your Excellency, Mr. President, can divide. But it is actions, in fact, not words, that bring reconciliation. President Mbeki and I brought reconciliation when we unveiled a monument in Thokoza to fallen comrades from both our parties in October 1999. But now, Your Excellency, your party builds monuments to the ANC alone and fails even to invite the families of the ANC's victims. I welcome the President's invitation to meet with him in Durban in July 2010, and I reported it here, because after Polokwane in 2009, he told me that the ANC and IFP should work together as before. Yet when we met, the President advised me to step down because of the ructions in my party. I explained to the excellent President that his advice would carry more weight not for the ANC's role in these ructions. And I laid before the President extensive evidence standing right here of a campaign of manipulation, violence, and treachery that was being used by some in the ANC, some, to divide and destabilize the IFP through a faction led by the Honorable National Person of the NFE, the Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister of Science and Technology, Mrs. President Jacob. The President expressed surprise, even though much of what I said was documented in the media, and the ANC's Women's League was openly singing Zanele is ours in the National Legislature. The President promised to intervene, but he did not intervene. Thus, during the State of the Nation address in 2011, I brought all the evidence standing right here before this Parliament. The President did not dispute it, but still he did not intervene. Immediately after 2011 elections, the Honorable Mrs. Kamakwaza led her new party into a coalition with the ANC. And after the 2014 election, the President rewarded her with a position on his national
on a point of order.
I congratulate.
On a point of order, Chair.
I congratulate.
On a point of order.
It seems the Women's League.
On a point of order, Chair.
When they sang Zanele belongs to the ANC.
On a point of order, Chair.
That raised
the Honorable Buthelezi,
of ethical integrity.
There is a point of order on the floor.
Oh, I didn't hear.
The point of order?
Honorable Chair, can you rule? Is the Honorable Buthelezi speaking on his speech or is out of tangent?
Honorable Member.
I'll call that politely balderdash.
Honorable Buthelezi.
Point of order, point of order, point of order, Chair. Point of order, Chair.
I'm listening to the point of order, sir.
Is the word balderdash parliamentary?
Yes, it's the politest thing for saying the right thing.
Honorable Buthelezi, please round up.
Just weeks ago, there have been so many interruptions.
Please allow the Honorable Buthelezi to finish his speech.
Just weeks ago, the Honorable Deputy Minister of Science and Technology was accusing the ANC of dirty, barbaric tactics, of violating their oath of office, of perpetuating inequality and poverty, of self-enrichment and corruption, particularly with regards to the President's house in Kandla. Indeed, her vitriol led her supporters to drape a coffin in ANC colors. One must ask, what changed your mind, Deputy Minister? For the ANC's part, it has gone from calling on the public protector to investigate the Honorable Deputy Minister for alleged misappropriation of state funds, for
your
saying
time has expired,
experience will contribute immensely to effective and efficient governance.
Honorable Buthelezi, your time has expired, sir. Thank you very much. The Honorable Deputy Minister of Science and Technology. Order, members.
Honorable Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Your Excellency, President Zuma, Your Excellency, Deputy President, members of the Cabinet, honorable members of Parliament, distinguished guests, and members of the media. Firstly, the NFP wishes to convey its condolences to the family of the late Secretary of Parliament, Mr. Michael Coetzee. Secondly, I wish to record my deepest and most sincere appreciation to all members of the National Freedom Party and supporters who have expressed their confidence in us to serve them at this level. I am speaking on behalf of them. I am their voice. I'm not going to worry myself. I'm not going to worry myself about the utterances of Dr. Buthelezi. I think it is bitterness. It is sour grape, and he is being disingenuous and spiteful. Therefore, I'm not going to belittle myself. The members who constitute this assembly are privileged as they are chosen from among the millions to represent them to the best of their ability. The National Freedom Party's entry into politics is deeply embedded in our commitment to serve the people of South Africa in such a manner that makes each person a proud South African citizen. All of us are guided by a common purpose that is clearly enshrined in the Constitution, and more specifically in the Bill of Rights. The people have legitimate expectations of life, of dignity, not only as individuals, but also as family and community. They yearn for peace, they yearn for harmony, prospects for their children, employment in a stable environment, basic amenities, a roof above their head, and food on the table. Over the past 20 years, we have made tremendous strides, notwithstanding the challenges bequeathed to us and the numerous obstacles faced in the transition from oppression to freedom. We need to acknowledge the progress we have made, yet there is still a great deal that needs attention. The road ahead is long and difficult. Today, the common purpose of nation building is compelling us to cooperate and reach out to each other beyond narrow, superficial differences that sow conflict and divisions. The intentions of the President's address cannot be doubted. It recognizes the importance of economic growth as fundamental to a stable democracy and a necessary, although not sufficient, condition for reducing poverty. It recognizes that the economy is functioning below its potential and the need to achieve a 5% target by 2019. It proposes various intervention measures to jumpstart the economy. However, numerous obstacles beset the implementation of some of the proposals. Our growth potential is challenged by chronic deficits in critical infrastructure and an economy exposed to global markets and volatility. There are many serious impediments, such as energy, water, transport, labor regulations, bureaucracy, weak administration at the point of delivery, skills, and work ethics. The President has placed great emphasis on radical transformation of the energy sector and the need for structural changes in state-owned enterprises. The intention to develop an energy mix is welcomed, although the issue of nuclear energy is not without its inherent dangers, e.g., it is extremely expensive and with concerns of safety and health. However, while these plans will address the energy challenges in the next 5 years, the concern is the time lag between project implementation and delivery. There is no specific plan for short-term supply, and reference has been made to only Medupi project. No reference is made to integrated transport planning that links ports, rail, road between points of origin of products and destination. The creation of special economic zones around the country will no doubt increase our competitiveness. The location of these zones is critical in bringing benefits to the people. These zones must necessarily be located close to communities to minimize travel to work. The historic pattern of work zones has created the anomaly of the separation of workplace and residence, where the poorest have to travel the furthest. The high cost of these journeys places a financial burden on the household. The longer journey also increases travel time that impacts on family life. The National Freedom Party raises concern about government's response to rapid urbanization of the country. While it is generally acknowledged that the cities have the infrastructure support for industrialization, South African cities are already burdened with an influx of population for which it cannot cater in terms of housing, basic amenities, and jobs. The phenomenon of hostel residence for single men, although provision will be made for families, is an apartheid creation that is destructive to family life. The consequence is that the household head of families in rural areas are mainly women. Socio-economic conditions in hostels and mining areas need to be immediately attended to and home ownership expedited. Land invasion experienced in cities, it is the consequence of a policy that makes the urban areas as an attractive place of work. The cities have not only attracted rural communities, but also many people from outside South Africa as a place to find work. The competition for jobs often results in xenophobic attacks on foreign citizens. The cities of today cannot cope with the rising demand for employment, housing, transport, sanitation, and other services.
Your time.
Okay.
Please round up.
Thank you very much, Honorable National Chairperson.
Thank you, ma'am. The Honorable Nawa.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of National Council of Provinces, His Excellency the President.
Please speak into the mic, sir.
His Excellency the Deputy President. We take this opportunity as the organ of local government to express our sincere appreciation for being given this opportunity for the first time to allow local government to be able to comment on what the President has raised. Chairperson, we are in agreement with the President that local government has gone a long way to be established. We have built a foundation which has been laid leading to local government. We renewed what the President has raised in the success of local government. The President stated there have been many successes in many municipalities. In addition to 11 municipalities highlighted by the President, we want to make point that many municipalities are doing better in improving their state, and we want to mention that the city of Johannesburg has completed social, economic, transportation infrastructure, and local governments has included bus rapid transport. And we also want to know that, President, the city of eThekwini has received in 2014 the highest international allocate as a city which has best water management standard as well in the world and human settlement. This in addition to a significant contribution that local government has made in the expansion of social infrastructure and services to poor households in the form of a basket of social services like free water, electricity, solid waste collection, sanitation, and water connectivity, which in sometimes are unappreciated and demonstrated local government is not doing anything. The census 2013 results has also illustrated firmly that the profound contribution of local government to the country's development and key service delivery gains, contrary to the often disappropriation, negative narratives sustained against municipalities. A key challenge that are facing municipalities, while acknowledging these successes, we must confront the key challenges which continue to bedevil many of our municipalities, in particular financial management and expenditure, planning and delivery basic services. on financial management and improving audits, SAGA is also rolling out a hands-on support program to those municipalities in financial distress who are persistently attaining disclaimers and adverse audit opinions. This undesirable audit report is unacceptable and it must be eradicated as a matter of urgency. Our collective ambition that no disclaimer and adverse opinion should be visible in local government in the near future. The socio-economic conditions and other external factors contributing to distressed municipalities cannot be ignored. In many of our municipalities, the real impact of 2009 global financial crisis is now being felt with the depression on citizens and business putting a greater strain on limited financial and human resource, with many inhabitants unable to pay for services and ripple effects, therefore, of municipality capabilities. The Beggersdal case in my own district, with several mine closures in the recent years, has its consequential effects on the municipalities, as an important one which could draw lessons from more proactive and coherent governance. The mass infrastructure and related job creation interventions are therefore critical for addressing socio-economic challenges which are at the heart of much distress in local government. Its success will depend on a greater intergovernmental support and collaboration around key projects and municipal areas, and other initiatives aimed at improving the living conditions of our people. In this context, the greater hands-on support which national government will lead on through introduction of interministerial task team on service delivery, championed by Minister Govan, is welcomed. In relation to urbanization, as the President indicated, the Integrated Urban Development Framework.
Well, that's all we have time for today. The debate on President Jacob Zuma's State of the Nation address will continue tomorrow, and we'll bring you live coverage of that debate at 2 o'clock right here on the SABC's DSTV channel 404. Until then, from the team at Parliament, good afternoon.
Special planning so that the housing can be well positioned with adequate access to public transport, and urbanization requires new housing, expanding service and improve public transport. The main challenge in planning of our urban areas is to enable job creation linked to sustainable livelihoods and to establish well-performing human settlement. And this should be at the heart of what cities do and how they perform. Successful cities are the vital cogs of the economic objectives of our development and capable states, including our goals for economic overcoming poverty, inequality, and unemployment. Let us equip our cities with the necessary institutional reforms to ensure that routine investment in build-up environment reverse the special legacies of apartheid. Notwithstanding some of the challenges faced by many municipalities, we should not forget that we live, we work, and we play in municipalities, and services we enjoy are for the most part provided by municipalities. All is indeed not doom and gloom. We should celebrate our successes as we build confidence in the municipalities. We appreciate what the President would have raised in profiling the 11 municipalities, and we are sure that the entire cabinet and the entire public representatives would actually support that we profile local government better. We must consolidate the gains made to date by addressing some of the fundamental constraints hampering municipalities in our quest for effective development. The President's address highlighted some of the interventions and initiatives aimed at revitalizing our municipal spaces. Let us all rally behind municipalities as the key players and implement of our government program of action. Chairperson, to this end, we are committed to working with our partners in government and the private sector to ensure that we integrate our approach to service delivery and that developmental vision of local government is fully realized. We are committed that we make what the President has called in support of local municipalities across our country, the districts that are there, that we work together and make that the local government is properly profiled and is properly functional. I thank you, President.
The Honorable Karim.
The Chairperson, the President, Deputy President, colleagues, the struggle for national liberation was increasingly waged for both political and economic liberation. My time says 6:55. Is that wrong? I've been given 15 minutes as I know it.
Honorable Karim, you inherited minutes, and I think we must adjust the time.
No, I'm quite well happy with the extra 6 minutes. Indeed, the opposition having spoken the way they have, I'm happy with that 6 minutes.
Honorable Karim, you will be given your 15 minutes. Just your 15 minutes.
Tough. Okay, it starts now, doesn't it? Because that clarity is not something that is part of my time. But as I was saying, before I rudely interrupted myself, the struggle for national liberation was increasingly waged for both political and economic liberation. The links between the political and economic aspects of liberation are there in the Freedom Charter. They are set out far more explicitly in the Morogoro Conference of the ANC in 1969. Among the many references to this in the conference's strategy and tactics document, I refer to but one, which reads that the aim of the struggle is, and I quote, the complete political and economic emancipation of our people and the constitution of a society which accords with the basic provisions of our program, the Freedom Charter, close quotes. So it was long, long ago, will the EFF note, long before this party recently surfaced, and to claim the economic space solely for itself, that ANC members, under the most brutal conditions of apartheid, and at huge personal and collective cost, waged the struggle for economic freedom. The struggle for economic freedom is an endemic part of the national liberation struggle. And they well know it because you came from the ANC, almost all of you. Now, it's very hard to argue that the ANC's stress in the next 5 years on economic freedom, on economic restructuring, on socio-economic transformation is simply because of the EFF. You weren't there in 1956. You certainly weren't there in 1969 even. So this goes a long way back. Yes, the world has changed dramatically since the ANC's 1969 conference. But the need for economic liberation hasn't. 20 years into our democracy, in fact, it's become even more urgent. We have, of course, made significant progress since 1994, but we still have a long way to go. And the way to go, as the ANC and government have made clear, is into a second, more radical phase of our transition to a national democratic society. The President, in his recent inaugural address, no less, made it very clear when he said, and I quote, "The second phase will involve the implementation of radical socio-economic transformation policies and programs over the next 5 years. Economic transformation," I quote him saying, "will take center stage during the new term of government as we put the economy on an inclusive growth path," close quotes. He repeated
government